The Slasher Generation, a generation of young creatives obsessed with success and all things entrepreneurial, dreaming of becoming the next big thing with their startup businesses and brilliant ideas. We sit down with two young business starters to see what all the fuss is about and get a true insight into the reality of working for yourself. Aziza Green is a marketing manager at UTS who recently completed her Masters of Creative Writing. She has just recently opened an online store specialising in leather goods after a trip to Bali inspired her creativity. She gives us an insight into the ins and outs of her world as a slasher.
I suppose for me, like, I didn't have some big dream about design or some big sort of fantasy about having any sort of business. It was more a case of recognising that there's opportunity in this day and age to kind of do little side businesses for kicks and to make a little bit of money. The thing about finding a business opportunity I found is that my brain just goes into overload, and so I could probably, do all-nighters for 2 weeks because I'm just so amped up on like the adrenaline and the excitement of sort of that creative outlet. And I spent a lot of time just looking at designs and looking at what I really wanted to do, because I didn't go with a plan. I just sort of, it landed in my lap. And the wonderful thing is, I think I belong to quite a large church community, and I have quite a lot of friends in a lot of different spaces, and I found that's been really beneficial, and sort of a big impetus to starting as well was knowing that I had friends who could help me with the website or help me with, like the e-commerce site, or help me rebrand things. I have friends who are graphic designers. I have a beautiful friend who's a blogger who just out of the blue offered to do all the photography for me and styled it and everything, and just sort of no expectations of anything, just like out of friendship and love. And that was really beautiful. And I think that's been one of the most rewarding things about it, is sort of realizing you have all these networks and these people who genuinely want you to win and don't have any agenda or anything that they want to get out of it. I suppose they're hoping that you get rich and then they can get it all back in Christmas presents, but I don't think that's the case. I think there's just a lot of love, and I think that's probably part of what this sort of entrepreneurial community is about, is people love seeing other people win, and as a result it just kind of fuels a lot of love and community and help. And I know I'd be willing to help people who are starting up their blogs or starting up their businesses. Apart from the very, very small beginning business that I'm working on, I also work part-time at UTS in social media and digital marketing, and I am working on a novel, so I'm a fiction writer as well, and I have a blog, and I also sort of volunteer one day a week at a local church as well, and I'm quite involved in that as well. And when I actually say it all out, it sounds like a crazy person's life, and it could be a crazy person's life, but I think that it's not something that I plan necessarily to go in all these different directions. I think there were just all these interests that I had and passions. If I had to sit down and actually write out all the things that I was doing and sort of prioritize them, I'd actually really struggle to do that now. There were times where I wanted to quit it all, and there were times where I wanted to do only one of those. At the same time, I think I don't necessarily put any sort of undue pressure on any of those things to be perfect or to be, something that's going to make me either famous or super, super rich. I think maybe that's where the pitfall of sort of the people who want to get into their own business, or people who want to start a blog, or people who want to do this creative thing. I've talked to a lot of people about these sort of things, and I feel like, if you jump into a small business and kind of expect that, okay, this is going to be your moneymaker, and now, you can forget about the rest of your life because everything's going to be, like, you're putting all your eggs in one basket, and it's sort of, it's unfair pressure to put on something that's quite fledgling and, like, little. Maybe, you know, small business on the side, if that's a great way. For me, I think that's a great way to start, in particular when you've got a life full of other things that you want to do. I just find it a much more manageable way to do things.
Milani Biasetto is a full-time retail assistant who recently completed her Certificate 4 in Design at TAFE. She is about to open the homewares business that she's always dreamed of, but is facing some hardship along the way. She is one of many Australians trying to juggle working life with entrepreneurial projects.
I suppose I really just wanted to have something that's my own. I suppose it's ideal situation to work for yourself and to somehow not have to work the 9 to 5. I have always loved design. I suppose starting my own company would allow me to sort of have a hand in design and eventually see how it goes, and maybe in the end it would be that I would be able to design my own stuff. Working for yourself, I suppose, you know, you sort of have that full doubt in your mind because not everyone can work for themselves. Yeah, I think there's a lot of, I know for me, like, I want to start an online homewares business, which recently 2 couples that we know have started an online homewares business, and then another person has opened a shop that's homewares, and it's a little bit like daunting because you sort of, you know, fishing from the same friend pool. But I suppose, like, the hope is that you have something different to what other people have. Working for yourself, it's probably not going to look like having a coffee every morning and starting at 12, but, you know, that is the ideal, and that, I suppose that's what you're working towards. I think with the knowledge of, you know, other people have started businesses before me, I suppose watching them and knowing that that's not their lifestyle is sort of helpful. But I suppose, yeah, ideally that's what I would like to do, but, you know, it's a bit hard. I think you talk to anyone and the first thing obviously they ask you is what you do. And I suppose, like, telling them at the moment I'm working full-time in retail because there's no jobs in design. But I suppose, like, the first thing they ask you is what you're doing, and for me I have to say full-time retail and then think, oh my gosh, like, what a crap job, like, I need to do something else. And I suppose, like, I suppose it has influenced me as in it's motivated me to like, move faster with my business. I wouldn't have done it without that pressure. I feel like it was always something that I wanted to do. Once I had that dream and had that vision, I felt like that's what I wanted to do. People give you that sort of perception of pressure, and whether that's all in your head or whether that's actual pressure is, you know, I suppose up for interpretation. Yeah, people definitely influence your choice and definitely pressure you into feeling like what you're doing isn't enough. If you're an accountant, like, everyone's like, oh, cool. Silence. And then, yeah, I think definitely influences you to push on and push faster. I think that everyone has that thing inside them that wants to express themselves and without sounding like derogatory, sell themselves as well. And I think some people, especially creative types, really do want to have something that they can call their own and have something that shows who they are. I think the internet has definitely made it a lot easier for people who generally or might not otherwise be able to do that. But I think it's also, I know for me, while researching and while trying to put together a website, it's also almost been discouraging at the fact that you can find, you know, so much stuff on the internet and so much, you know, there's there's big companies, but there's also little companies, and you think you're the only one doing that thing, but then you look and you find 10 other people and you're like, oh my gosh, who am I? What am I trying to express?